This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by J. Yogaraj and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, take a look at the headlines. The 7th religious observances under the theme Yovun Shila Samadhi was held at the Bellamvilla Rajamahawihara this morning to mark the SLBC Day. Tokyo Olympics officially begin under spectre of pandemic. The opening ceremony marks the beginning of the Summer Games, delayed by a year and held under the unprecedented restrictions. The government pays attention on using organic fertilizer produced using urban waste for economic crops such as tea and rubber. Uptake in COVID figures as 1,310 more people test positive. Nothing harmful in Moderna vaccine, Health Ministry guarantees. Sri Lanka detects 23 new cases of Delta variant. The loan repayment period has been extended by another 6 months to those affected in the tourism industry due to the corona pandemic situation. The distribution of compensation to the fishing community of Colombo district, which was affected due to the recent Express Pearl ship fire, commenced today. In news overseas, Chinese President Xi Jinping visits troubled region of Tibet. And in sports news, India were bowled out for 225 in the third ODI against Sri Lanka at the R. Premadasa Cricket Stadium. Those are the headlines, and now more to the details of the local news. The 7th religious observances under the theme Yovun Shila Samadhi was held at the Bellamvilla Rajamahawihara this morning to mark the SLBC Day. This process is carried out under the concept of Minister Namal Rajapaksa. The program is conducted on every Poya Day at different viharas located island-wide. A special Pinkam program was also organized at this venue. With the relaxation of health guidelines, the devotees also participated at this event enthusiastically. Meanwhile, the final Randoli Perahara of the historic Rukun Khatargama Mahadevalaya paraded the streets tonight. The water cutting ceremony will be held tomorrow at Maninkanga. The government has paid its attention on using organic fertilizer producing used urban waste for economic crops such as tea and rubber. State Minister Kanaka Herath has instructed the scientists at the Tea and Rubber Research Institutes to look into the possibilities. It is expected to use organic fertilizer scientifically proven for tea and rubber plantations. Meanwhile, the Chief Prelate of Bellamvilla Rajamahawihara and Chief Sanganayaka of Singapore, Venerable Bellamvilla Dharmaratana Thera, said that everyone should support the organic fertilizer program for the betterment of the country. Venerable Bellamvilla Dharmaratana Thera further said that he appreciated the decision taken by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to use organic fertilizer. As many as 1,310 persons have tested positive for coronavirus today, says the Ministry of Health. All new cases are associated with the New Year COVID-19 cluster. This brings the total number of infections confirmed in the country thus far to 292,608. According to the official data, more than 22,000 infected patients are currently under medical care at hospitals and treatment centers across the island. Meanwhile, the number of total recoveries has reached 265,708. Referring to the reports being circulated on social media with regard to the Moderna jab, the Health Ministry today urged people not to be afraid of getting the Moderna as it contains no enzymes that are harmful to human body. Addressing the news briefing, Health Promotion Bureau Director Dr. Ranjit Batuwanthudava said that social media reports had articulated that Moderna vaccine contained luciferase. We inquired into the claims and found out that the Moderna vaccine contains no enzymes called luciferase, he pointed out. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
A giant interest rate for your fixed deposit that you deposit this month. Call 0718 800 999.
And we continue with more local news. Sri Lanka has identified 23 new positive cases of Delta corona variant, says the head of the National Operations Centre for Prevention of COVID-19 outbreak. This brings the total number of infections of Delta variant of concern found in the island to 61, the Army Commander General Shavindra Siva stated further. According to reports, the new cases have been detected in Colombo, Dambulla, Vavuniya, Mullaitivu, Kilinochchi and Negombo areas. More patients have been identified in areas such as Kotte, Kolannava, Angoda, Navagamua, Mahabage, Katunayaka, Negombo, Ratmalana, Beruvala, Gaul, Mathura, Dambulla, Vavuniya and Mullaitivu. Accordingly, this takes the total number of cases of the Delta variant to 68. Though the total number of cases is at 68, there may be more such cases which are undetected in the community, Deputy Director General of Health Services Dr. Hemantha Herath told media. It should be noted that the first case of Delta variant was detected in Aramaya Place in the Demanakode area on June 21st. The loan repayment period has been extended by another 6 months to those affected in the tourism industry due to the corona pandemic situation. The hotel traders have obtained about 300 million rupees loans for which the repayment period has been extended to the 31st of December this year. It is reported that the Education Minister is prepared to submit a cabinet paper next week to solve the problems of the teachers. These problems are existing for more than 20 years in this field. It should be noted that none of the previous governments could solve this problem as of date. As a result, the present government is preparing to solve the problem through a cabinet proposal. The government and its agencies like the Marine Protection Authority and the National Aquatic Resources Research Development Agency, the NARA, and other local bodies have failed in addressing the environmental damage and damage to livelihoods of fishermen caused due to the inferno of the Express Pearl vessel recently, environmental activists have claimed. Executive Director of the Centre for Environmental Justice, Hemantha Vithanage, said 70 to 75 billion plastic pellets called noodles dropped into the ocean following this incident and added it would take 500 to 1,000 years for plastic to perish. When these plastics are consumed by fish, they get crushed into the small particles which are converted into microplastics. Also, when fish eat these contaminated plastic pellets, fish could perish, he underscored. However, he said over 235 sea turtles reported to have died following this disaster and added that it could be assumed that over 2,000 turtle deaths would have occurred. The distribution of the compensation to the fishing community of the Colombo district, which was affected due to the recent Express Pearl fire, commenced today at Moratua. 1,171 fishermen were given compensation under the first phase of this process. Further, 21 fishermen from Korlavella South Division also received compensation today. The police continue to interrogate the brother of wife of Parliamentary Rushad Baduddin in connection with another incident of sexual abuse at the same venue. The suspect was arrested and kept under remand custody for further investigation purpose. The suspect will be produced for Fort Magistrate tomorrow. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. The 7th religious observances under the theme Yovun Shila Samadhi was held at Bellam Villaraj Mahavihara this morning to mark the Asalapoya Day. Tokyo Olympics officially begin under the spectre of pandemic. The opening ceremony marks the beginning of the Summer Games, delayed by a year and held under unprecedented restrictions. The government pays attention on using organic fertilizer produced using urban waste for economic crops such as tea and rubber. Uptick in COVID figures as 1,310 more people test positive. Nothing harmful in Moderna vaccine, Health Ministry guarantees. Sri Lanka detects 23 new cases of Delta variant. The loan repayment period has been extended by another 6 months to those affected in the tourism industry due to the corona pandemic situation. The distribution of compensation to the fishing community of the Colombo district, which was affected due to the recent Express Pearl ship fire, commenced today. And that was the local news.
Now, get your EPF loan information and service details via SMS from HDFC Bank. Wherever you are, being a state and private sector employee, to obtain EPF loan information and service details, just send a SMS mentioning EPF space, name and region to 0718 800 999. HDFC Bank, the bank for your home.
story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The main news story for tonight, the government has paid its attention on using organic fertilizer produced using urban waste for economic crops such as tea and rubber. State Minister Kanaka Herath has instructed the scientists at the Tea and Rubber Research Institutes to look into these possibilities. It is expected to use organic fertilizer scientifically proven for tea and rubber plantations. Meanwhile, the chief prelate of Bellamilla Rajamahawihara and chief Sanganayaka of Singapore, Venerable Bellamilla Dharmaratana Thera, said that everyone should support the organic fertilizer program for the betterment of the country. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And in Watchlight tonight, the health officials request the public to follow the health guidelines during this period. Although the travel restrictions are relaxed, the inter-provincial travel restrictions will be in force. Therefore, the public is requested to follow the special guidelines released by the Health Ministry to control the third wave of the corona outbreak. The health officials warned that further travel restrictions will be determined in the future based on the behavior of the general public. That was the Watchlight, and now we move on to the headlines of the world news. Chinese President Xi Jinping visits troubled region of Tibet. India monsoon, 36 dead after landslides in Maharashtra. Tokyo Olympics officially begin under spectre of pandemic. Those were the headlines, and now more to the details of the world news. President Xi Jinping has visited the politically troubled region of Tibet, the first official visit by a Chinese leader in 30 years. The president was in Tibet from Wednesday to Friday, but the visit only reported by the state media on Friday due to the sensitivities of the trip. China is accused of suppressing cultural and religious freedom in the remote and mainly Buddhist region. The government denies the accusations. At least 36 people have been killed after monsoon season floods triggered landslides in the western state of Maharashtra. Houses in Raigad district were swept away after torrential rain and flooding. Rescuers have been recovering bodies from under the debris, but more people are feared missing. The rescue operations have been hampered by heavy downpours and foggy conditions. Maharashtra is experiencing heavy monsoon season in July in 40 years, which experts say is a direct result of climate change. The opening ceremony of the Summer Olympics Games began in Tokyo with a blaze of white and indigo fireworks officially kicking off the quadrennial international sporting event being held under the unprecedented circumstances of the corona pandemic. Japan's Emperor Naruhito and Olympics Committee President Thomas Bach were followed by a small delegation carrying the Japanese flag as they entered today's ceremony, which was initially scheduled to be held about a year earlier before its postponement due to the surging of COVID-19 infections across the globe. Only a few hundreds of dignitaries and special guests, including French President Emmanuel Macron and US First Lady Jill Biden, were allowed into the 68,000 capacity new national stadium after Games officials decided to largely bar spectators. International and domestic fans have been banned from all venues in Tokyo. Top sponsors, including Toyota and Panasonic, also opted out not to send their representative to the opening event, with polls showing the Japanese public remaining largely against moving forward with the sprawling gathering in which about 11,000 athletes will contest 339 medal events across 50 disciplines in 33 sports over 2 weeks. And to conclude the world news, the headlines once again. Chinese President Xi Jinping visits troubled region of Tibet. India monsoon, 36 dead after landslide in Maharashtra. Tokyo Olympics officially begin under spectre of pandemic. And that was the world news.
Development News is brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
And in development news, the Hambantota International Port, HIP, recorded its highest discharge level of bulk cargo recently when a shipment of gypsum consignment to NC Cement was unloaded at a rate of 24,000 metric tons per day by the port operations. Tusit Gunawarnasuriya, Director Procurement and Logistics of NC Cement, said this was an extraordinary achievement for a Sri Lankan port in terms of speed and efficiency. As the number one cement manufacturing company in Sri Lanka, we import raw materials in large vessels. But once these vessels arrive in the country, it is up to the port operations, in this case HIPG and HIPS, to discharge the vessels quickly. And that came to you in the segment of Development News.
Development News was brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
Moving on to sports news, the opening ceremony of the Summer Olympics game began in Tokyo with a blaze of white and indigo fireworks officially kicking off the quadrennial international sporting event being held under the unprecedented circumstances of the coronavirus pandemic. The procession was followed by a moment of silence for victims of the pandemic as well as the Israeli Olympians killed during the 1972 Munich Games before the first of the expected 5,700 athletes began streaming into the ceremony. And still on sports news, the third and final ODI between India and Sri Lanka is being played at R. Premadasa Stadium as a day and night encounter. Indian captain Shikhar Dhawan won the toss and elected to bat first. Accordingly, India were bowled out for 225 in 43 overs in a rain-restricted match. The match is reduced to 47 overs per match due to the rain interruption. In the middle of the match, Sri Lanka has started batting with a winning target of 226 in 47 overs. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, HMB Assurance PLC and its fully owned subsidiary HMB General Insurance Limited, together with their staff members, made donations of ventilators and medical equipment to hospitals, MOH and PHI offices. As a part of the second phase of the donations, an Optiflow nasal oxygen therapy system was handed over to the Kagala District General Hospital. This is a vital piece of equipment in the treatment of COVID-19 patients as it eases breathing. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And in economic news, the Belgian Investment Company for Developing Countries, BIO, agreed with the STB Bank, pioneering provider of financial services, to take up to 10% share of the bank, amounting to 925 million rupees at 51.5 cents per share via STB Bank's secondary public offering. The agreement was made recently and is a milestone in achieving BIO and STB Bank in its journey towards becoming a leading national development partner with a global focus. To liaise with BIO is a proud accomplishment for STB Bank, and we are encouraged by this partnership, which empowers us to fuel and support small and medium-sized enterprises and other national level initiatives which contribute to socio-economic growth in Sri Lanka, STB Bank CEO Tilak Pedigama said. That was economic news and the weather report to conclude.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally, the weather report, the Met Department says the southwest monsoon condition is active over the country. Showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa and central provinces and the Galle and Mathura districts. Fairly heavy showers, about 75 millimeters, can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamuwa province and in the Nuwara area, Galle and Mathura districts. Few showers will occur in the northwestern province. This weather report was published this evening at 7:30 p.m. Further details could be obtained by visiting the official website of the department. Meanwhile, the international weather forecast website AccuWeather.com predicts the Colombo weather would be generally bright during the day tomorrow, but there will be cloudy weather in the afternoon. Today's daytime temperature was 31 degrees Celsius and there were light showers in many places in the Colombo district the night. Tonight's temperature will be around 35 degrees Celsius and there will be scattered showers in selected spots late in the night. The ground temperature would be 25 degrees Celsius at the time of this news broadcast. The Air Quality Index AQI is 16, which shows fair condition in Colombo. The air quality is generally acceptable for most individuals. And that was the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And before we conclude this bulletin of news, let's get back to the headlines once again. The 7th religious observances under the theme Yuvun Shila Samadhi was held at the Bellamilla Rajabha Vihara this morning to mark the SLBC Day. Tokyo Olympics officially begin under the spectre of pandemic. The opening ceremony marks the beginning of the Summer Games, delayed by a year and held under unprecedented restrictions. The government pays attention on using organic fertilizer produced using urban waste for economic crops such as tea and rubber. Uptick in COVID figures as 1,310 more people test positive. Nothing harmful in Moderna vaccine, Health Ministry guarantees. Sri Lanka detects 23 new cases of Delta variant. The loan repayment period has been extended by another 6 months for those affected in the tourism industry due to the corona pandemic situation. The distribution of the compensation to fishing community of the Colombo district, which was affected due to the recent Express Pearl ship fire, commenced today. In news overseas, Chinese President Xi Jinping visits troubled region of Tibet. And in sports news, India were bowled out for 225 in the third ODI against Sri Lanka at R. Premadasa Stadium. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news.